A lot of talk at the Cubs convention and one notable absence. We round it all up right now.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alongside Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. Best way to support the show is by listening every day on your preferred audio platform and by pressing like and subscribing on YouTube. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Today's Monday episode is presented by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com and use code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. That's jacemedical.com, J-A-S-E medical.com. From start to finish, the Cubs convention over the weekend was dominated by a player who not only wasn't in attendance, but isn't even on the team, at least right now. His name is Cody Bellinger. After his one season with the Cubs in 2023, Bellinger vaulted himself into fan favorite status thanks to his comeback campaign on the North Side. And there were chants of Cody Bellinger everywhere. During Tom Ricketts' opening statement, during the other panels, during the Q&As, during questions directly at Jed Hoyer, directly at Craig Counsell, and directly to Cubs players. And it was all punctuated by a quote from Dansby Swanson. Bellinger is still a free agent, Sam, and opening day is a while away. But it does feel more and more like Bellinger will be a part of it.
Yeah, I was going to do a whole winter hat bit since it's been so cold this weekend. I didn't like the way it looked, so I took it off. I have some other off the field comments for later in this show. It wasn't one of my best weekends. The Cubs convention, business as usual. I'm not a huge fan of like the whole Swanson, slamming his hand on the table for Bellinger. I get what he's trying to do. People are chanting his name. If you just took a business 101 class, the more you talk about Bellinger, the harder it is to sign him because Boris hears that and is going to use that as negotiation. Right now it's obvious the Cubs want to re-sign Bellinger at a certain price. I think it's obvious that Bellinger wants to come here at a certain price. And the delay is his agent is waiting for the best possible price. So the more you force it, the more pressure that you give to the situation, the more likely Boris is going to continue to keep it in his back pocket. I would encourage Dansby Swanson to first start getting some base hits when it matters and lead by example and let Jed Hoyer take care of his business. I'll say this. I think Bellinger will be a Cub. I think it seems destined at this point, and yes. We're probably just talking numbers. My guess would be the Cubs are comfortable with about 170, and Scott Boras is looking for 200, and there's a happy medium in negotiation that needs to get met between that time. And I'm not sure it happens anytime soon, but I am pretty confident that it happens at some point.
Yeah, I'm numb to the timeline now. If it rolls into February, that's okay with me. Not ideal considering other dominoes that might fall, that might be acquisitions for the Cubs. But if they all report to camp in mid-February or so, and they're all in Cubs colors, then all ends well. If those are the players that they truly wanted. I do think Bellinger's destined to return to the Cubs. I think the Cubs right now are at 6 years. He wants 7+ or whatever it is, still floating that 200 number, but obviously the market has come down considerably. And how many times, I get the Dansby Swanson part of it, and I get what you're saying, Sam. And again, you had a funny voice message to me on Saturday about it when Dansby said, he was asked by Coomer about expectations for 24, and he went off on his own route and said, before we could even think about it, We got to re-sign Belly. That's all I'm going to say. But here would be my retort to that. How many times is Boris going to text Heyman and Nightingale that the Blue Jays and Mariners like Bellinger? How often is that going to happen? Well, the Cubs are the only player. I can maybe see the Blue Jays, maybe, but they did all their other moves already, including Kiermaier. The Mariners are having some payroll issues.
Major.
There might be literally one team left for this dude, unless all of a sudden he takes a one-year deal in San Fran or something like that. But that would be out of the blue. It's pretty clear on January 15th that he wants multiple years.
Is it January 15th already?
Yes. So if there's really one team, then it really is just a staring contest between Hoyer and Boris. And I had to chuckle again Sunday morning, Sam. Bob Nightingale, the Cubs are going to be the most aggressive team the next 5 weeks. You said that last Sunday, Bob. Again, we all see it. Yeah, I get all the players are being floated. I get the three huge names right now, Bellinger, Chapman, Hader. Trust me, we're going to talk about them all week on this program.
Are we really?
Okay, number one program on the Cubs. But there's only one suitor for this brother. That suitor is the Cubs. The players love him. And I understand the business 101 part, but Boris has to blink too. And if this is the only team, then I'm starting to feel good about some of what the players are dishing out and really where this is going.
Sure. I don't really have much more to add on Bellinger.
And it was cool to see Michael Bush at the convention, fresh off the trade.
Well, are we going to do the whole convention in general next?
Yeah, a little bit. We're going to do more as the week goes on, too.
Because, with Bellinger, I quite frankly, I'd like to move on with that part of it. I thought
so. You're growing you have some fatigue over it.
Well, no, I think I just think you said there's nothing for me to add. Just becomes redundant. I agree with everything you said.
Yeah, I crushed that segment. Is basically what you're saying.
Yeah, and then the tidbit that I swung in there. I don't think I have anything more to add. Bellinger. So
that's like the dude at the Arcana on Wednesday night. He goes, "Man, you guys do a great show. I've never seen a podcast IRL."
So I thought the whole rest thing with Counsell, maybe not hinting at a 6-man rotation, but saying he was going to give extra guys rest was interesting. Jed saying, the Cubs are in about the 4th or 5th inning of their offseason, I thought was interesting as well.
What's notable about that quote before we round up the rest of the convention? What do you think about that quote specifically? I think moves on the way. He uses a baseball analogy.
Yeah, I think they're going to add another bat. I think they're going to add another reliever, and I think they're going to add one more wild card piece with that. I'm not sure what it's going to be. But let me tell you, it better cost money because they have not spent any money yet. Don't let their activity fool you. Imanaga is a cheap deal. Bush doesn't cost anything. Almonte doesn't cost anything. They need to go out and spend 150 plus M's on somebody. It'll probably be, the young man that we were speaking of early on this program. So just about a minute and a half ago. But, I want to see money being spent.
Right.
I want to see this team top 5 in payroll. They should be right at that first luxury tax threshold, which I believe is about 237 M's at least.
Correct.
This should be an 88 to 92 win club. And, we could talk about Craig Counsell talking, telling all the different stories.
There is momentum happening here.
That he told.
Let's get to that coming up next. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL regular season is over and the playoffs are here in earnest. And wow, have there been some upsets? Have there been some blowouts, some high-scoring games? And right now, you could get on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. New customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like with the same game parlay. You can even find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub and so much more. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, the official partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode is also brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps you ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die or live at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. We will break down more news and notes out of the convention as the week moves along. However, we want to provide some main highlights for you right now. We already gave you the Jed Hoyer baseball analogy quote, which is fascinating considering it is January 15th and they're only in the middle of the offseason, apparently, according to him. Craig Counsell was praised by Hoyer, Sam, for his ability to build a team and culture that results in winning a lot of baseball games. And Counsell himself talked about letting your best hitters hit the most. Imagine that. Right. Also expressed his general dislike for bunting. And again, singled out Christopher Morel. Counsell later singled out Hayden Wesneski. What sticks out to you, Sam, from the weekend?
I think the best hitters hit, the most things interesting, but not in the way that you would imagine it, because I don't think Ian Happ is necessarily the best hitter on this club or one of the two. I mean, again, I'm in the mindset.
Not the best pure hitter.
I don't think the Cubs could be serious this year at this point if they don't bring back Cody Bellinger, unless they make a move elsewhere. So let's just assume Bellinger's on the team. Suzuki's a better hitter than Happ. You'd like to think Bellinger's a better hitter. It'll be interesting to see what he does with that. The bunting thing, fine. There's times and places. I don't think of Craig Counsell as a tremendous culture guy. I think of him more as an X's and O's game manager guy, and he kind of pushed back on that. So that was a bit interesting. And I'm using the word interesting very
a lot.
Well, no. And it's risky because none of it to me was interesting. I'm not a big convention guy. I don't get excited about stuff like this. I want to roll the ball out March 28th on Thursday night with Justin Steele on the bus.
ESPN.
With runners on the corners, one out, and seeing somebody at a line drive to right center field to a base hit that could get all the way to the wall. 2 runs are going to score. That's interesting to me. Not Counsell telling stories about Sutcliffe and Billy Williams remembering his dad and Dempster doing the moderation. All that good stuff. It's fun for everybody else, but I'm ready to play baseball and talk moves. And so, I'm glad Jed was able to sign Imanaga. To me, I think we must mention Imanaga's press conference. To me,
I apologize as the producer.
That was the highlight of this weekend because that young man.
I got to get that as a sound drop.
That young man came in here, learned a couple of English phrases and songs that is not easy to do if you speak Japanese as your primary language.
Hey, Chicago, what do you say?
He referenced Ben Zobrist and his clutchness. He referenced the great Michael Jordan. We'll get to him later. And I just thought he looked totally prepared. He looked like a guy you absolutely want to spend money on and invest on. And I really, to me, the highlight of my weekend, not only for the Chicago National League Club, but for all my sports teams who sunk themselves this weekend. The highlight was the press conference on Friday of Shota Imanaga, because he looks like a man that is ready to pitch, contribute, and most importantly, folks, win baseball games, because you could do all you want. Your perceived velocity, your carry, your spin rate, your this. How much do you help your team win on and off the diamond? That's what I'm into, and he looked like a serious candidate for that to be a lot.
That was a great way to lead off the weekend, and it was also the only time for me this weekend, and Kira can attest to it, my wife Kira, that
we know
that the marquee app worked. The press
Oh,
conference at work, great. Had a snow day
sure.
Friday, watched it live. And then, folks, for the convention on Friday night, and then even a little bit Saturday, I tried to watch. The marquee app was a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know if you had issues on the marquee app. I'm not saying Xfinity. I'm not saying DirecTV. I'm not saying straight up cable. I'm saying straight up internet streaming. It was crashing. It was cut in and out. It was delayed audio. It was delayed video. If this is how it's going to be when they do roll the balls out, what's going to happen then, fam?
Well, it was like that.
Am I going to be able to watch my team? But I've never had issues up until Friday night, player.
Yeah.
I've had zero issue. And now I can't even go more than
Matt,
I can't even go more than 5 minutes without it doing something.
Can I do my Crane Kenny, please?
Yeah.
Matt, you're a valued customer to the Chicago Cubs, and we really appreciate your time. Unfortunately, this weekend, the weather was really bad in the Chicagoland area, which led to
all my other apps work, Crane.
which led to really
all my other apps worked.
and
the other apps worked.
We can't speak for other apps, Matt, but we can offer you as a complimentary coffee when you come to the park. If you just go across the street. So go Cubs, man.
The Morel being singled out again.
Was he really? I didn't even know that.
And Jed Hoyer said,
and by the way, I stopped my marquee subscription until opening day. I'm not paying to watch bass fishing.
And my guess is that there's a lot of people on that ship.
Yeah.
Morel in trade rumors was dispelled by Hoyer. Of course, Morel was noticeably absent too, apparently because of visa issues.
Uh-oh.
And Hayden Wisniewski. Morel and Wisniewski are seemingly the two most mentioned in trade convos as the internet projects all their trades. But out of nowhere, Counsell mentioned Wisniewski. Of course, he has an undetermined role, but just something to take note of from the weekend.
And another thing you could take note of is that Dansby Swanson on opening night wore a cowboy hat.
Yes, he did.
So
coming up next, 2 players inducted into the Cubs Hall of Fame this coming summer. And they are really closely associated with our fandom growing up. Stay tuned. Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. I know we come to sports to escape from some of the crazy realities of real life, but can we just talk for a minute about preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. This is scary. Thankfully, will be okay because of Jace Medical. The Jace case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs and respiratory infections, among others. Visit jacemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jacemedical.com, JASE medical.com, and use code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. The Cubs announced Friday night that their 2024 inductees to their team Hall of Fame are pitcher Kerry Wood and third baseman Aramis Ramirez. And a really cool video from their sons to surprise their dads getting inducted into the Cubs Hall of Fame. Wow, Sam, so many memories with these players. It was emotional, goosebumps for sure, watching that video the Cubs put out, and a lot of highs, a lot of lows with those Cubs teams. But those were forces of nature for sure.
Two major parts of my childhood that I respect
Yeah.
very deeply. I'd like to share two memories of each.
Great.
Number one, Kerry Wood, 2000. I was too young when he struck out 20 in 98 to really recall that.
Same here.
2003, though, Kerry Wood, Game 5, NLDS,
Whoa.
Cubs, Braves, elimination 2-2. Kerry Wood goes into Turner Field. 8 innings, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts, and the win as the Chicago Cubs win their first playoff series at the time in 40-plus years. And then, of course, Kerry Wood later on, unfortunately, it ended up in a devastating loss, but Game 7, NLCS, 3-1 down. He hits a 2-run home run.
Yeah.
I've never heard Wrigley Field louder in my entire life. And then, of course, Aramis Ramirez, 2 memories. His grand slam against the Marlins in that NLCS, I think it was Game 4. And then, of course, his walk-off homer against the Milwaukee Brewers in 2007. That was Len's first "oh baby" call, first of many as his great run as the Cubs announcer. 2 great players. To me, Aramis Ramirez, really one of the most underappreciated, underrated, not only Chicago Cubs, but just players of that era. He was a tremendous hitter, tremendous run producer. And
he really was.
I really respected him a lot.
Yeah. And I think, too, that after last year with Grace and Dunston, I guess I expected more players to, because this is pretty new for the Cubs, the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So I expected more of like that era, or at least like close to it. And so to get players that dominated the 2000s and even shortly in the 2010s, that was a nice surprise. That was a real nice surprise. So, yeah, a lot of great memories associated with those guys. I still remember where I was when the Cubs got Aram. They got Kenny Lofton in that deal as well. And, yeah, just great memories with those 2 players.
And speaking of, sorry, you go first. I'm sorry.
Sammy Sosa, just to be thorough, did not get inducted, although he was reportedly on the ballot for the first time, but did not get in.
Great. And he should be in. We didn't get a chance because we had an awesome trade video that we did on Thursday to do our best and worst of the week. So I just like to throw in a quick worst. Please. And I already ranted once on this video, so I'll try and keep it calm. Speaking of great memories and a major difference between the great Kerry Wood and the great Aramis Ramirez is that the greatest memories in the history of this beautiful sports city came between the years of 1991 and 1998 when the Chicago Bulls three-peated 2 different times and won 6 championships. And on Friday night, they held their inaugural Ring of Honor, and it was a total, unmitigated disaster. 30 years later, 25 years later, the greatest run, not only in Chicago sports history, but maybe all of sports history, is still such a toxic and icky situation. From Jerry Reinsdorf, the fans booing Jerry Krause's widow, which was just shameful. Michael Jordan, with all due respect to the great Michael Jordan, he hasn't helped the situation at all, and he didn't make his presence felt. Nobody knows what's going on with Scottie Pippen and why he's become the way he is. They didn't even acknowledge Luke Longley, who came all the way from Australia. He's a 3-time champion. The thing was just an absolute disaster. Only the Bulls and only Mr. Reinsdorf could take 6 championships in 8 seasons, 2 three-peats with the greatest athlete maybe in the history of all of sport, and turn it into this weird, toxic, uncomfortable environment. And it was on full display Friday night at the Madhouse on Madison. Shameful.
If you want more of that and more of us, we would love if you considered subscribing to our new podcast, Unlocked. That's going to drop every Monday night, Tuesday morning.
Going to be a lot of that Tuesday, folks. I'm not happy.
Record Monday nights, put it out Tuesday mornings. Had our first episode last week. And as we pursue to expand in this podcasting world, we would love for you to consider subscribing to Matt and Sam Unlocked. That link is going to be in the description of this episode, as well as tickets for February 7th to our next live show in Des Plaines. If you're in the Chicagoland area, or possibly even beyond, as we had listeners from Iowa, Indiana, the Quad Cities this past week. We would love to see you and meet you in Des Plaines on Wednesday, February 7th. Again, details at the link in this episode description. Sam, it was great to get back into it. We got a packed week of shows, Tuesday through Thursday moving forward. And of course, pending any breaking news, we'll be reporting that with you as well. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On
sports
Cubs.
weekends in my life.
You give us 20 to 30 minutes, and we'll give you all things Cubs with a laugh or two along the way. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube and smash the like button for the algorithm. Shout out to the audio peeps on Apple, Spotify, and more, including those in Ireland that listen on Apple, as we are number one this weekend, baseball podcast in Ireland. Shout out to everybody there. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.
There
Go
is
Irish.
momentum happening here.